Hi everyone. What you're seeing on my screen is a complete ecosystem of 4 SaaS applications that I've just deployed. To be clear, we're talking about 4 interconnected apps working together, not just a single project. They are live, fully functional, and integrated with actual payment gateways. If you've always wanted to build software, but don't have a technical background, this is for you. The key takeaway here is that I built this entire system without writing a single line of code myself. I'll walk you through the vibe coding process step by step, showing you exactly how to leverage AI. I've provided all the documentation, system diagrams, and the exact prompts I used in the description below, all free of charge. We're here to build a real digital asset that can generate actual revenue. Let's stay focused and get to work. Now we're going to install Anti-Gravity. Anti-Gravity is an AI coding IDE built on top of a fork of VS Code. So if you're already familiar with VS Code, then the interface and workflow will feel very similar. What makes Anti-Gravity special is that it doesn't just autocomplete code like a normal AI assistant. It can actually work more like a real AI engineer by reading your codebase, editing files, running terminal commands, installing packages, and debugging projects directly for you. That's also why it's considered one of the most popular tools in the current vibe coding trend. To install it, simply go to the official Anti-Gravity website and click Download. If you're using Windows, it will show Download for Windows. And if you're using Mac OS, it will display the Mac version instead. After downloading, just go through the normal installation process by clicking Next, Next, Next. Once the software is installed, open it and sign in with your Google account so you can access the built-in AI and Gemini features inside Anti-Gravity. We also need to install Node.js because most modern AI coding workflows depend heavily on it. Technologies like React, Next.js, TypeScript, NPM packages, and local development servers all require Node.js to work properly. In simple terms, Node.js is the runtime environment that allows JavaScript to run outside the browser, and it's basically one of the core foundations behind modern web development and vibe coding today. To install it, simply go to the official Node.js website and download the LTS version, which stands for long-term support. If you are using Windows, download the Windows installer, and if you are using Mac OS, download the Mac version instead. After downloading, just open the installer and continue with the normal Next, Next, Next installation process. Once the installation is complete, we will verify that Node.js was installed correctly before moving on to the next step. The next tool we need to install is Git SCM. Git is a version control system that allows us to manage our codebase, track changes, create backups, and connect our projects to platforms like GitHub. This is extremely important in modern AI coding workflows because later on, when we deploy our applications, most hosting platforms such as Vercel or Netlify will directly connect to our GitHub repository in order to build and deploy the project automatically. In other words, Git becomes the bridge between our local project and the cloud deployment infrastructure. To install it, simply go to the official Git SCM website and download the version for your operating system. After downloading, open the installer and continue with the normal installation process. In most cases, you can simply keep the default settings and click Next, Next, Next until the installation is complete. Once Git is installed successfully, we'll verify that everything is working correctly before continuing to the next step. Finally, you will need a Claude Pro account. The registration process is very simple. It costs around $20 per month. If you have a higher budget, you can also choose the max plan at $100 per month. But personally, the $20 plan is already more than enough for me because I have my own strategy for combining different AI models in order to optimize token usage while still maintaining very high efficiency. You should think of this $20 monthly cost as hiring a senior developer that works for you 24/7. It unlocks the ability to interact directly with your file system, execute terminal commands automatically, debug issues in real time, and smoothly manage large documentation systems with dozens of markdown files. All right, let's dive into the initial design of this ecosystem. We're not just talking about one app here. We're building a suite of 4 specialized SaaS tools: an audit app, a thumbnail generator, an idea generator, and a script generator. Now, even though these are 4 separate applications, they're all going to live under one roof, sharing a unified database powered by Supabase. Let's talk about how the business side works. The Audit App is the core of the system, and it's the only one with a tiered pricing model. If a user is on the free, starter, or pro plan, they'll have access to the audit features. These tools are designed to hunt down what I call AI slop. It scores your script and flags those robotic phrases that just don't add value. You know, the kind of writing that lacks that essential human fingerprint. But here's where it gets interesting. If a user steps up to the max plan, they unlock something much more powerful, the rewrite feature. This isn't just a basic edit. It humanizes the language, wipes away any trace of AI footprints, and builds new semantic nodes to give your script a real shot at going viral. For the money side of things, I'm going with Lemon Squeezy for the payment gateway. Look, I know most people default to Stripe, and it's a solid choice. But Stripe isn't available everywhere. Lemon Squeezy solves that problem for you globally. Plus, honestly, I've found it's actually easier to set up than Stripe. Don't worry, I'll walk you through every step of the configuration in this video. We all know the struggle in the YouTube automation space. Everyone's leaning on AI to write scripts now, but with the latest algorithm updates, those generic AI scripts are getting flagged as slop more than ever. The Audit App is exactly what creators need to bypass that mess. And there's a big bonus for those on the Max plan. Once Supabase sees you've upgraded, it automatically triggers free access to the rest of the ecosystem: the Thumbnail app, the Viral Idea app, and the script generator. That's how we keep everything connected. If we look closer at the Audit App, the workflow is simple. You put in your title and the full script, and the app spits out a slop score and highlights the robotic parts. Prices range from $0 for free, $9 for starter, $19 for Pro, and $49 for Max. Like I said, that Max plan is where the real magic happens. While we're vibe coding this app, I'm also going to show you a killer technique to slash your costs by almost 90%. If you're dealing with long scripts, this is how you stay profitable. It's called prompt caching. It sounds a bit technical, but don't let that scare you. I'm going to break it down so it makes perfect sense. Now, for the other apps in the suite. The thumbnail generator is for those Max users. You just feed it your title, script, and the style you're going for. You can even upload reference images or give the AI a specific prompt to tweak the final look. The idea generator follows the same logic. You give it a keyword or a genre, and you can even list some competing channels so the app can analyze what titles are working for them. And finally, the script generator. You just provide the title, the concept, the video length, and your target audience. It'll handle the rest, matching the specific style you want for your brand. What you're looking at here is a complete 4-app ecosystem. It's a full-stack solution for creators who feel stuck. On the back end, we're mostly using a mix of the Gemini and Anthropic APIs. I'll show you how to play them off each other to get the best performance without burning through your budget. And for the security nerds like me, don't worry. All 4 apps are built with pro-level security, featuring RLS support, middleware, and full server-side validation. Does that sound exciting? I'm not just teaching you how to build a single isolated app. We're building an entire integrated business, all sharing one database, with a global payment system and a consistent brand vibe. And the best part is, the cost to run this is incredibly low. I've put all the documentation, the initial designs, the feature lists, and the pricing plans in the description below. Go ahead and grab them. They're completely free. I honestly don't get why some gurus out there charge hundreds of dollars for this stuff. Around here, all the resources I share are on the house. Okay, let's go. We're going to start with the very first prompt. The first thing we will say to Claude Code, the exact message we'll type in order to begin the conversation. And of course, you can simply copy this entire first prompt and paste it directly into the chat box. I'm sharing this full first prompt completely for free, so don't forget to leave a like and subscribe to support the effort I put into this content. Inside this first prompt, you'll also discover a lot of small technical tricks that help optimize efficiency and prevent wasting tokens on unnecessary tasks. Let's talk a little bit about the mindset behind vibe coding. One of the biggest mistakes people make is assuming that throwing every task at the most expensive model will magically solve everything. They jump straight into premium models like Claude Opus 4.7, hoping the code will somehow become faster, cleaner, or more impressive. But the reality is very different. A higher-end model might improve performance by 20 or 30%, while your token costs can easily double or even triple. The entire 4-app ecosystem project is built around a much more practical philosophy, using the right model for the right stage of the workflow. During the deep thinking phase, when we need architecture, planning, and system design, that's where Claude Opus 4.7 becomes valuable. Its job is not to write every line of code. Its real responsibility is to create the structure, define the build plan, and organize the 40 markdown files that act as the source of truth for the entire ecosystem. Once those MD files are solid, everything that comes afterward becomes dramatically smoother. Then comes the execution phase. At this point, we already have the blueprint, so the actual coding work can be handled by Claude Sonnet 4.5 or 4.6. These models are still powerful enough to manage complex logic, but they are significantly more efficient in terms of token usage and response speed during long working sessions. There's one important truth you should always remember. No matter how powerful vibe coding becomes, you are still the architect. Claude Code and Gemini are simply the builders executing your instructions. Even the best builders in the world cannot save a project if the architect loses control of the system design and the source of truth documentation. Without strong oversight, the entire codebase can quickly collapse into chaos and massive technical debt. By distributing model responsibilities intelligently, every working session becomes far more efficient. You'll save a huge amount of tokens while still maintaining a very high level of product quality. At that point, it's no longer just programming, it becomes the art of resource management in the AI era. We also use a documentation-first approach to build a massive system of markdown files that acts as a highly detailed blueprint for the entire project. Files like globalarchitecture.md as the constitution of the ecosystem, defining how all 4 applications communicate and share data with each other. On top of that, every individual app has its own dedicated documentation, including files like architecture.md, api.md, and design-system.md. When you send the very first prompt to Claude Code, instead of forcing the AI to guess what your project looks like, you provide it with the complete world map from the start. The AI reads through the entire MD file system and absorbs the full context of the project before writing a single line of code. It can then cross-reference the documentation to detect contradictions, architectural risks, webhook flow issues, or quota validation problems before development even begins. Once implementation starts, the AI follows the standards already defined inside Claude.md, including communication style, coding conventions, naming systems, and architectural rules. Because of this, you never have to worry about the AI randomly inventing features, renaming variables, or breaking the database structure behind your back. Even if you build App 1 today and App 4 several months later, the entire ecosystem still follows the exact same logic and design language because the brain of the project was locked in from the very beginning through documentation. And later, when you want to hire additional developers or scale the system further, this documentation becomes the perfect onboarding package. New developers can immediately understand the entire ecosystem without needing long verbal explanations or countless meetings. Let's get started. First, I will create a folder on the desktop named Projects. Inside this folder, I will create our project. We can call it YouTube Creator Suite. So, we have successfully opened the YouTube Creator Suite folder in Anti-Gravity. You can see that this is a completely empty project, with not a single code file or folder at all. And we will start working on vibe coding on the Anti-Gravity platform. I will open Claude Code up. What we need to do is very simple. Just copy the entire content of the first prompt file. I will leave this first prompt file in the description. You can use it absolutely for free. We will paste it into the chat box of Claude Code. Please note that all tasks related to planning, designing the structure, and building a complete map for the project should be kept in plan mode. And we should not hesitate to use the most powerful model of Claude Code, which is the Opus 4.7 model. With Opus 4.7, we have a 1 million token context window, which is more than enough to build a complete framework including all MD files and build a complete structure for our project. Claude Opus 4.7 will consume quite a lot of tokens, double compared to other models like Sonnet 4.6. However, this is a worthy investment because we need to make everything truly perfect and meticulous right from the start, so that later, when we build deeper and further things, we won't lose the rhythm, and the AI will increase the probability of success for the project. I will click Enter and Claude Code is starting to work. Please note that during the vibe coding process, the AI will not always create a 100% accurate result, but it will be a matter of probability. That is why, to increase the AI's probability of success, we must be meticulous right from the planning stage, designing a complete framework for the MD files. As you can see in the first prompt file, I have planned very carefully, especially building a very professional structural framework. That is why during the coding process, the AI will never lose its rhythm or go the wrong way compared to what was designed. Whether it is Claude Code or any other coding platform like Gemini or OpenAI's Codex, the work of planning is always prioritized as the most important. It might only account for about 20% of the workload, but it is the critical stage. That is why I use Opus 4.7 for these tasks. And you will see that after the plan has been fully developed and the design structure has been built, the work of starting to code will be very fast and meticulous. At that point, we only need to use lower model versions like Sonnet 4.5 or 4.6, and the work results will still achieve high efficiency. Let's take a look for a moment. Just a few minutes into building the plan, but we have already consumed about 5% of our tokens. But you don't need to worry about this. This is a very worthwhile cost investment. And we have the first plan framework for the project. We will build a total of 4 projects, including the audit project, the thumbnail generator project, the idea generator, and the script generator. All will use a shared database on Supabase, integrated with the Lemon Squeezy payment gateway. And the audit app will involve 4 plan levels: free, starter, pro, and max. When a user activates the max package, the user will be bonused with the remaining 3 apps. This plan also shows all the strengths and weaknesses of the project, and we will gradually overcome them during the coding process. I believe that integrating the Lemon Squeezy webhook will be the most challenging stage, because it is quite complex when we have to integrate product IDs, user IDs, and variant IDs. And we will use the Proration method to protect customers. When we get to the stage of integrating these modules, I will explain it more clearly to you. These are the phases, the stages of our work. Claude Code predicts that we will build the project within a few days. However, I don't think it will last that long. We only need a few hours. When you watch the full duration of this video, you will grasp the entire process. The port to test our project will be localhost port 3000. To be honest, I really don't like this design from Claude Code. It has gone completely against everything we agreed upon in the first prompt. For example, regarding weakness 1, I truly want it to use a per domain. I don't want it to use the parent domain like this. It looks very unprofessional. Regarding weakness 2, I don't understand why Claude wants to scale it down to only 9 MD files, while our initial requirement was for more than 40 MD files. Therefore, I want Claude Code to stick to what we agreed on in the structural framework of the first prompt. For weakness 4, I agree. We will integrate the checkout page and the pricing page. Regarding CI1 and CI2, I think we can go with option A, which means the full credit feature after the update, depending on whether it's the Pro or Max plan. For CI3, I really don't get why it wants to choose Postgres when Supabase has so many advantages. I want it to continue using Supabase. Regarding CI4 and CI5, I agree that we will implement the limitation features and perform additional testing. As for CI6, I don't want to upgrade to Opus 4.7 for writing scripts that need a human fingerprint. I only need the Sonnet 4.5 or 4.6 model. That's more than enough. That is why I'm probably going to lose it with Claude. Hey Claude, why do you always do everything that contradicts my points in the first prompt? I want you to strictly follow what I designed. Now, return to my decisions and never do anything that makes me angry again. For W1, I want to use a per domain, not a parent domain. For W2, keep all 40 MD files, never scale it down. For W4, I agree. You can implement the pricing page and checkout page. For CI1 and CI2, I'll go with option A, providing full credit for users upon upgrading. For CI3, keep Supabase, never use Postgres. For CI4 and CI5, I agree. You can implement the limitation features and run the tests. For CI6, do not use Opus 4.7. I just need Sonnet 4.5 or 4.6. And we have a new plan. I must admit this plan is much better than the last one, but to be honest, there are still points I'm not quite happy with, from Phase 1 to Phase 7. I agree with moving the payment section above the humanize feature for testing purposes. However, there is one thing I don't understand. Why does Claude keep using the term credit? I never mentioned credit in the first prompt. Let me clarify the plan tiers again. Free plan allows uploading scripts up to 500 words and a maximum of 5 times. Starter plan, upload scripts up to 3,000 words and a maximum of 30 times. Pro plan, upload scripts up to 6,000 words and a maximum of 60 times. Max plan, allowed to upload scripts up to 9,000 words and a maximum of 90 times. Claude using credit is just stupid. I want Claude to prioritize using Supabase edge functions for heavy logic features later on. Claude must stick strictly to the first prompt and never code based solely on assumptions. That is why I have to say this to Claude. Hey Claude, you are so stupid when using the credit system. I never referred to that in the first prompt. I want to clarify again about the usage limits according to the current plan. For the free plan, the script limit is 500 words, and the submission limit is 5 times. For the starter plan, it is 3,000 words and 30 times. For the pro plan, it is 6,000 words and 60 times. For the max plan, it is 9,000 words and 90 times. And Claude, I agree to boost payment prior to humanize for testing purposes. And again, always coding following strictly to the first prompt design, never coding by assumption. And enter. So we finally have the final plan. I think this plan is quite complete and well structured, as it strictly follows the requirements we set in the first prompt. I'm going to go ahead and approve this plan right now. To get started with the next phases, I will provide Claude with the detailed MD file for App 01, which is the Audit App. This will be the first foundation for the entire YouTube Creator Suite ecosystem. Let's watch how Claude handles the coding for this application. You can see the Edit Automatically status appearing right here. Let's take a quick look at our usage limits. We've already used about 24% of the limit for planning and initiating the code. Now, Claude Code is preparing to write the MD files, and in just a few seconds, we will see the most basic framework of our system start to take shape. Are you excited? Because when it comes to coding, if we are meticulous at this stage, the rest of the work will be much smoother. It not only leads us to success faster, but also helps avoid major obstacles or bugs later on, making adjustments very easy to handle. There it is! It seems Claude finally understands what we want to say. So, it's asking me that I have 2 options. Either paste the content of the 4 documents into the message, or put them in the root directory, and then it will start phase 1. The second option is to start phase 1 right away, without the documents related to our apps. As a habit, I usually provide all the documents it requests, especially the MD files, which are the design blueprints for the apps we intended to build. By the way, I want to mention a gift I mentioned at the beginning of the video. These are the MD files for the apps I've prepared here. I've put them in the description, and you are free to use and practice with them if you have the chance. I will put all these files into our project, specifically in the YouTube Creator Suite folder. And I will say to Claude, "Hey Claude, I choose option A, and I have provided 4 documents about the information of the 4 apps in MD file format and placed them in the root directory. You can use them and start phase 1. But keep one thing in mind. When the coding stage starts, I want to switch to the Sonnet model. It also has a 1 million token context with performance not inferior at all compared to Opus 4.7, but it can save tokens by twice as much. Why wouldn't we choose it, right? I'll select Sonnet and hit Enter for Claude Code to enter Phase 1. Let's watch Claude Code start working. Okay, you can see that Claude Code is starting to install Next.js. This is the library we use to build the apps. With the npx command, it's performing right in our terminal without us having to lift a finger. Claude Code is taking care of everything. Don't worry, just select Approve to let Claude Code automatically deploy, because our planning phase was very thorough, so we don't fear Claude Code going off track from the original goal. I'll expand the screen to make it easier for us to observe. This is a completely new work section. Since we started letting Claude Code auto-edit, we have consumed 6% of the tokens in today's work section. This is not a large number at all, compared to all the files and frameworks we are about to receive, including the code files and all the dependencies. And here, the scaffolds are running in the background, and it will continue with the dependencies installation and the necessary environment for the project to start running. And indeed, Next.js has completed the directory for this app 01 audit. As you can see, we now have the 01 audit app directory with all the dependencies installed. You don't need to worry too much about these files. Just notice the claude.md file. It's currently filled with some stuff, and Claude Code will continue writing into it. We also have agent.md and .gitignore. This is one of the security standards I mentioned at the beginning. It will ignore libraries and secret API keys when we deploy to Netlify. Additionally, we have the package.json files. So, Claude Code has finished building the initial framework. I will continue to approve so Claude Code can install libraries like Supabase, Anthropic, Gemini, and Lucid React. Let's wait for Claude Code to keep working. At some point, I will remind Claude Code to be careful because I want to deploy our project to Netlify, as Netlify integrates very well with GitHub. I don't plan on using Vercel. Did you just see what happened? We now have the .env.local file. This is a crucial file where we will insert our API keys. I will focus on this point a lot when we get to that step. We'll need to use APIs from Supabase, Gemini, Anthropic, and Lemon Squeezy. Our local testing port will be localhost 3000. Okay, I'll keep approving so Claude Code can download more libraries and dependencies to build the general framework. Our project is growing bigger and more massive with many folders, dependencies, and necessary files. The exciting part is starting now. I'll take a quick look at the .env.local file first to see what we need to prepare. We'll go into Supabase to prepare the services, anon keys, and URLs. API keys for Gemini and Anthropic must also be ready. These keys are very important. In our Audit App, we will use the Gemini key to detect keywords and phrases that show signs of AI slop or robot-written content, and then use Anthropic to rewrite that script to humanize it with a human fingerprint. Apps number 2, 3, and 4 will continue to use the Gemini key to generate thumbnails, viral ideas, and viral scripts. It seems the Anthropic API key has only one job: rewriting scripts to sound more human. We now have an additional lib folder with api.ts and database.ts files. Of course, I will continue to approve Claude Code's operations. I want you to pay attention to the page.tsx file in the app folder. This is the file we'll work with quite a lot to configure the UI elements. In my experience, we will mainly work with .ts files, route files, and API files. Just wait. After Claude Code finishes the necessary tasks, we will go to Supabase. That is an exciting part, and I think you should follow very closely how I get the APIs, URLs, and IDs to create the project. Once you master this knowledge, you can easily work not just with Claude Code, but also when coding with Gemini or any other tool. Claude Code has built 19 files for us. This is a general framework based on TypeScript. I really like these files. They are like the heart and soul of the project. We'll probably spend a lot of time with client.ts and server.ts files and their structures. Okay, so we have finished phase 1. Claude Code is suggesting we move on to phase 2. Before that, Claude wants us to go to Supabase, create a project, and provide the URL and keys. After that, we'll open the Supabase SQL editor and paste the SQL schema. I believe Claude Code will help us write these schema files. We don't have to do much, just configure things inside Supabase. Okay, let's see what we need for our env.local file. First is next public URL, then next URL Supabase under key, and Supabase under key. Okay, now we'll start by creating a Supabase account and transferring these parameters. I'm going to the official Supabase website to create a brand new account. I'll set a password and log in. Setting up the necessary information is quite simple. I'll give the project a cool name. We'll just choose the free plan. It doesn't cost a dime. You don't need to pay for this because our project is relatively straightforward. Okay, we're now in the Supabase dashboard. I recommend enabling RLS, row-level security. This is one of the security standards we defined in our initial product design. Now, I'll create the project, set a password, and enter the database interface. As you can see, here is the project URL. We'll need this later. Let's wait a moment for Supabase to set up the environment variables. Everything is going well, and we're about to see the results. Okay, everything is done. Now, let's start configuring a few things. I'll go to Project Settings and select API. From here, we'll take the public anon key and paste it into the .env file. Next is the service rows key. We'll enable it and paste it into the Supabase variable. Finally, copy the project URL. Paste it here and hit Ctrl+S to save. Now, I'll tell Claude. I have finished setting up the environment variables. You can now generate the migration files for the tables. We need to set up the users table, subscriptions table, and tables for events, audits, and request logs, along with their RLS policies. And one more thing, please match the column names correctly. By the way, I'm asking Claude to use Netlify instead of Vercel. I'll hit enter. Anything else? Perhaps, after you generate the SQL schema, I will apply it. Okay, that should be everything. Let's wait for Claude Code to execute these requests. Once this task is finished, we will have the SQL schemas. We'll paste them directly into the SQL editor, and our database will be successfully connected. As you noticed, I just told it to adjust the deployment to Netlify instead of Vercel. This is a minor change and doesn't affect uploading data to Supabase. Honestly, deploying to Vercel is fine too, but I think Netlify is better suited for integrating with GitHub, and it won't require any fees for all 4 of our projects. Claude Code is performing the necessary steps to generate the SQL schema files. Once finished, when we check Supabase, we'll see the tables completed. Right now it's still empty, but in just a few minutes, these tables will appear, and we'll have a full connection. I'm continuing the approval. It looks like the SQL schema files are complete. We'll process each one. After running these files, we'll immediately move to phase 2, building the login page and the dashboard skeleton. All right, let's take a quick look at the SQL files that Claude Code has written. These are the files we'll copy into the Supabase SQL editor. Okay, looks pretty good. However, why? Why does Claude Code always want to make me angry? I said from the very beginning, do not use the term credit in any of our code. Instead, it must be submission. Therefore, I'm probably going to have to scold it again. I'll say, why do you always make me angry with your stupid mistakes? I told you at the beginning that I never use the term credit, but you always do it again and again. Now, change credit to audit submissions remaining, audit submissions total, and audit submissions reset at. Ensure authenticity in file 001 and use the correct column names. Good grief. Now let's wait a moment to see if Claude Code actually recognizes its mistake. You see that? Claude Code is starting to fix its errors, replacing all credit with submission. This is very important because if even a few terms are inconsistent, it will cause errors when we load login data or manage IDs. That's why I need to monitor this very closely and carefully. And Claude Code is starting to realize its mistake. It's updating its memory so this situation won't happen again. Okay, now we have 6 updated files. We'll start pasting these files into Supabase. First, I'll open file 001, copy everything, and paste it into the SQL editor. I'll hit Run. If this success message appears, it proves our SQL file is truly perfect and error-free. Next, I'll run the second file. Success again. We continue like this until all 6 SQL Schema files are done. Note that when pasting a new file, you should delete all the code from the old one so they don't overlap or overwrite each other. Moving on, success with file number 4, number 5, and finally, the RLS Policy file. Delete all of these. And yes, we have successfully finished all 6 files. Now I'll tell Claude, I have finished inserting all your SQL schemas into the SQL editor. Everything is successful. Are there anything else in this phase that needs to be done? In this case, I should probably switch to plan mode to save tokens. And I'm making Claude Code keep thinking. Ever since vibe coding came along, our work has been much easier, but we still have to check and monitor the project very closely. Perhaps everything is finished for phase 1. Once Claude Code finishes thinking, we can update the memory and take a short break, a little breather before we step into phase 2. Oh, so we already have the plan for phase 2, and Claude Code is ready to build. Okay, this plan looks quite solid. I think I'll go ahead and approve all of these plans. However, I noticed the term credit appearing in a few places within the plan, and I'm not quite sure why it's there. I should probably clarify this with the system. I will say, I will approve all of your plans, but again, never use the credit term. I don't want to remind you again. And here we go. We have a new plan. I think it's much better this time. Almost perfect, actually. That's why I'm going to approve it and let Claude Code start the deployment right away. Let's watch Claude Code in action. We are now officially moving into phase 2 of the project. All right, Claude Code has successfully helped us complete the essential files: route.ts, page.tsx, layout.tsx, and the page.tsx for the dashboard. So now, we have the full structure ready for both the login and dashboard pages. We're moving into the testing phase for our progress from phase 0, phase 1, and phase 2. I'll start by running npm run dev in the terminal to test the Audit App on localhost port 3000. Normally, when accessing the dashboard, the app will redirect us to the login page. This is a standard security mechanism. But wait a moment, why am I saying this? It looks like our current session's context is becoming full. After checking the context, I believe it's best to switch to a new session. We shouldn't force everything into one session when it has to handle the heavy workload from phase 0 all the way to phase 3. Let's watch Claude Code in action. We are now officially moving into phase 2 of the project. Therefore, I'm switching to plan mode and telling Claude Code. I think we should change our session because of your context fullness. Now you have to update to memory what we have done from phase 0 to phase 2 and what we will do next for phase 3. By doing that, when I open a new session, you can read the memory and will not need to rewrite the whole project again. Goodbye. We will continue in the next session. Now, Claude is updating the memory file. We should do this frequently to preserve the context. This way, when we start a new session, Claude will have a clear roadmap of the entire process, preventing it from forgetting details, getting distracted, or drifting off track with the code. And that's it. The memory is updated. In the next session, we'll resume testing on port 3000, and phase 3 will begin immediately after a successful test. This session is now closed. Let's take a quick break before moving on to the next part. Moving on, I'm opening a new chat session with Claude Code and asking, "Hey Claude, refresh your memory and tell me what we have done and what we will do in this session." I'm opening the terminal now. We are currently in the root directory, YouTube Creator Suite. I'll navigate into the 01-Audit App folder and run npm run dev. It looks like the app is ready. I'll open the browser and go to localhost 3000. It seems things aren't quite smooth yet. I'll take a screenshot and ask Claude, "Hey Claude, I ran npm run dev, but the login page is not displaying correctly." Claude identifies that this is just the default Next.js page, meaning our connection wasn't successful. Let's give Claude a moment to fix it. I'll agree to the fix. It seems Claude thought we were deploying to Vercel, but I want to adjust that. We are deploying to Netlify. And back to the browser. Boom! We have our first login page. I'll create an account using my email and set up a password. Account created successfully! Now, I'll check my email to verify. You can see that Supabase has sent the verification email. We just need to click the link to confirm. And here is our first interface. App name, home, history, pricing, account settings, with a free balance allowing 5 submissions. Currently, the app doesn't have any functional features yet. I'll tell Claude that we've successfully reached the dashboard and are ready for phase 3. Hi Claude, I've logged in successfully and it redirected me to the dashboard. This means we have finished phase 2 and are ready for phase 3, right? I'll screenshot the dashboard for Claude to verify and add, "There is still no function right now. We will build them by integrating APIs in phase 3 so we can test the functions later, right?" Exactly. Phase 2 is officially verified. To move into phase 3, we will need the Gemini API to fill into the .env.local file. Once the API is set, Claude Code will build the scoring pipeline, create forms, and result cards where we can paste video scripts and titles to make the app functional. Claude mentioned that inserting the Gemini API key into .env.local is a crucial step. I will be right there with you to implement this. I'll start by going to Google AI Studio to create an account and get this Gemini API key. Click Start, and here's the interface. There's a button to Get API Key right here. I'll create a dedicated key and name it something like Ecosystem App. For our project, you can definitely create a brand new one instead of using the default. I'll call it Ecosystem App as well and hit Create. Successfully created. Now let's generate the key. I'll take this key and paste it into the env local file in our codebase. You can see we are currently on the free tier. With this tier, we can use several Gemini features, like Gemini 2.0 Flash, which is more than enough to integrate into our app. However, keep in mind that not every country is supported. Some are on Google's blacklist. But countries like the UK, US, Canada, and Australia can use up to 1,500 requests on this free API. Once you hit the quota, you can upgrade. Google used to offer a $300 credit for all API accounts, but that program has ended. If you want that $300 credit now, you have to use Vertex AI. But that's fine. 1,500 requests is plenty for testing our 4 apps. Let's paste the key into end local right here. All right, key is in. Now I'll tell Claude. I have finished inserting Gemini API key into file env. Now can I run npm run dev and test some functions? We should stay in plan mode for this. Claude responds that we aren't ready because phase 3 hasn't been built yet. Essential files like client, quota, and rate limit are missing. So I'll tell Claude Code, okay, build all those files. And now I'm switching to edit automatically mode. You don't actually need to switch often, but I want you to practice and get comfortable with these maneuvers. For simple questions where we just want quick answers, plan mode is fine. But for coding, creating TS files or JavaScript files, we use edit automatically. I like to switch between them to stay flexible, though it's not strictly necessary. Claude Code is starting to build all the necessary files in the Gemini folder: client.ts, quota.ts, ratelimit.ts, and root.ts. The root.ts file is crucial because it defines which Gemini model we're invoking for specific tasks, whether it's 2.0, 2.5, or 1.5. Later, when we add the Anthropic API key, this file will also handle those models. Let's check if these files are building successfully. In the lib Gemini folder, Claude is currently writing the code for client.ts. You can see the files taking shape. In the API folder, we have route.ts, which dictates how the app calls the Gemini API. Meanwhile, client.ts in the lib folder clearly defines how we evaluate if a script is AI slop. It looks for phrases or sentence structures that sound robotic. This is the scoring framework Claude wrote for us. In other words, this is the initial system prompt our app sends to Gemini to classify and audit our scripts. Instead of writing this manually, our app handles it. For the Gemini model, Claude Code will likely go with Gemini 2.0 Flash. I agree with this. We don't need the Pro version. 2.0 Flash is perfect. In my experience, 2.0 Flash is ideal because it returns JSON that logs perfectly into a beautiful UI. Higher-end models can be too strict, requiring users to fill out every single field perfectly. If one field is missing, the resulting UI can look broken and unprofessional. Of course, later on, we might need to tweak the JSON, the model calls, the prompts, or how we handle Google's community guidelines, but we'll deal with that when it comes .au thematically. I hope we won't run into too much trouble, but AI is probabilistic. It's not 100% correct all the time. I might not hit any issues today, but you might when you practice, or vice versa. That's just the nature of probability. The key is understanding the basic framework. Every error has a cause, and Google will tell us what it is so we can fix it on the spot. Now that Claude Code has finished building the files, we move to testing on localhost. We'll open the dashboard, paste some titles and scripts, and let the app audit them for AI slop or robotic writing. Then we'll check the Supabase database to see if the data fields change and if the audit table appears. Finally, we'll test the Analyze Another feature to reset the form. All right, let's see how our app actually performs on localhost. I'll start testing by opening the terminal. We are currently in the root directory, so I'll navigate into our application folder and run the command npm run dev. Okay, everything looks good. Port 3000 is up. Now, I'll open the browser and head over to port 3000. And just like that, we're inside the application's dashboard. Since we logged in during the previous session, the interface appears immediately. We're going to test this using a pre-prepared title and script. I have a script ready right here. You can use your own for testing, but if you're feeling a bit lazy, I'm happy to give you this script set. I'll copy the title into the title field of this script Audit App. Next, I'll copy and paste the full script into the script field. As you can see, the app is functioning exactly as we defined. I set a rule that for the free plan, each user can only upload a script with a maximum of 500 words. However, we just uploaded over 1,200 words, so the app is flagging it as invalid. Because of that, we'll need to trim more than half of the script's length. Let's keep removing text until the word count drops below 500. Okay, we're at 435 words now, which should be a perfect fit. Now, I'll click the Audit My Script button. The app is performing great. You can see the loading state as it calls the Gemini API. If the loading process takes a bit too long like this, I think the app might be having some issues. When I check the terminal, it's showing a 502 error for the Audit API. It seems the error is located right in this area. We'll need to take a few steps to have Claude address and fix it. But first, let's wait within the app interface to see exactly what kind of JSON error message pops up. I'm going to take a step to inform Claude that we might be running into a 502 error with the Audit API. I'll crop the terminal section and send it to Claude with the following message. I think we'd have some problem with the API. This is a 502 error in API. Our app is still not producing any results, and I am certain there is an error occurring here. While we wait, we can head over to Supabase and enter our project to see what's happening with the user data. We have a user here on the free plan, currently with 5 submissions available for the audit script feature. If our app runs correctly, this number should decrease by 1, leaving the user with only 4 attempts remaining. Okay, Claude Code has responded. It's suggesting we switch to the Gemini 1.5 Flash model. It seems like it wants to lower the standards and be more lenient with Google servers compared to the 2 Flash version. I think we can temporarily accept this to see how Claude Code handles it. I'm going to chat with it. If you need, you can temporarily do it with a lower model. Also, you can create a local host with Gemini API test. That helps display JSON results from Google. I just recommend not compulsory. Our app isn't finished running yet, so there's definitely some kind of error here. See? You can see the terminal is active, meaning Claude Code is rebuilding the codebase by running dev continuously at the top of the terminal. Let's just let Claude Code keep building. When building apps like this, choosing the Gemini model and integrating the Lemon Squeezy payment gateway are the 2 steps I find the most difficult and challenging the biggest headaches. If we can get through these steps, we've already solved 80 to 90% of the workload for the entire ecosystem. Now, Claude Code wants us to change the API variable name in the env.local file. Following Claude's suggestion, we'll add a few characters here. Instead of using Gemini API key, I'll change it to your Gemini API key. Now, let's try the terminal again. The terminal is back up, so now we'll try the link Claude Code suggested. Localhost port 3000 with the Gemini API test. If our app were actually running, the output here should be true. But as you can see, it's returning false. This proves that we've hit another issue, and I'm going to have Claude Code look into it. I'll type in, "This is error with Gemini API test." All right, Claude Code wants us to try again. This time, it's still showing false. It seems the problem hasn't been fully resolved yet. Okay, let's try it one more time. If Claude still can't solve it, we'll try my way. It's still returning a false error. Just wait a moment. After Claude Code finishes its process, if it still fails, I'll propose my solution. Don't worry too much. Fixing API errors in these cases is perfectly normal. Even a senior dev can make mistakes in these situations, so it's no surprise that AI can too. And once again, the result is false. I know exactly where the problem is. So this time, I'm going to tell Claude, "Hey Claude, don't try too hard. I know the problem." I think this is due to the FinishReason, because Google always prioritizes safety for all returns when they can't finish the task. It is always a safety filter for the script. So the solution is, we can expand the threshold for sensitive words or phrases by using response schema. Model Gemini 2 Flash will be flexible for this case. Moreover, we can mix it with ZOD validation. Let's try it. If you need to, feel free to copy this prompt. I believe it will work effectively because we've tested numerous Gemini models, from 1.5 Flash and 1.5 Pro to the latest high-end versions. Here is the core issue. When we send a request to Google servers, the system is often overly sensitive, much like a child. It tends to filter out scripts containing words or adjectives that hint at community guideline violations, violence, or sensitive content. Consequently, the returned results are incomplete. When you trigger a request, missing data in the JSON fields leads to a very broken UI. The solution is simple. We need to raise Google's tolerance threshold by adjusting the safety settings so it accepts and bypasses those relatively sensitive terms. Once it accepts them, it will return a complete JSON object, even if it has to fill fields with zeros. Regardless of the value, the JSON file won't be crippled. As long as the JSON structure remains intact, the UI will display correctly for the user. Think of fields as the keys before the colon. If there's no result after that colon, the app might crash into a terrifying black or red screen. However, by using ZOD validation, these fields can handle imperfect data while still allowing the UI to pass through and look great. That's how we keep our app running smoothly. That's my proposal. Now let's see how Gemini handles it. Okay, let's reload. I'll stop the server and restart it. We still have an error, so I'll report back to Claude. It seems Claude wants to stick with 1.5 Flash, but I think we should upgrade to 2 Flash. Exactly. I want an upgrade to 2 Flash. We'll keep testing until it works. Honestly, Gemini has so many model tiers, whereas Anthropic feels much simpler. Now we have a new error. Claude Code is suggesting a 2.5 Flash version. I'll disconnect and restart again. Still getting errors. This time, it seems Google wants to aggregate all models, from 2 to 3.1, from Lite and Flash to Pro, all within the route.ts file. Okay, so we have successfully received a true value in the JSON response. The first field returning true proves that Google has accepted the request from our app with an expanded threshold limit. This means we can wrap up this phase and move on to testing on our local host, then check Supabase to verify the success. When you practice building these app systems, you might encounter many errors. The most common one is what we usually see, but the second most frequent issue is feature limitation. This happens if you are located in a country blacklisted by Google. In that case, you'll need to pay a small fee to purchase Google's API, usually around $10 to enable testing. Now, I'm going to run a test on our actual app. Here is our interface. I'll re-enter the title and the script, just like before. Title is pasted. Next, I'll paste the script. Our script should be under 500 words. About 435 words is perfect. Now, let's hit the audit button. Our app is now processing. Let's keep an eye on the terminal. Dashboard login successful. The dashboard page has been logged in successfully. We're back, and look at this. We have the results. Our app has been successfully built and has finished analyzing the script we just entered. The results indicate a 15% probability that our script contains AI slop, based on criteria such as cliché errors, voice flatness, or idea recycling. It's absolutely fantastic how Claude Code built this audit app to highlight the specific words it identifies as part of these AI slop issues. This is truly impressive. We've officially built a successful app. I think I'll take a screenshot of this to send to Claude. Let's call it a little celebration of our progress. Hi Claude, I think the app runs well. It shows an AI slop score of 3 with the assessment framework, and it highlights the words suspected as AI slop. Do you think we can finish this step with Gemini API? And just like that, Claude Code has responded that our Phase 3 is complete. We have finished 3 working deliverables, including the slop score, the 3-aspect breakdown, and the highlighting of slop words in the script. Excellent. We've just cleared one of the most difficult stages, arguably the hardest part of building this 4-app ecosystem. For those in countries where Google restricts many features, you might have to accept paying a small fee to experience building and applying these apps. I believe $10 isn't too large a sum, and it can open up many exciting experiences for you. Claude Code confirms that Phase 3 is truly finalized, and the memory has been updated. We have completed Phases 1, 2, and 3 using Gemini 2.5 Flash. To be honest, I didn't think it would use Gemini 2.5 Flash. Initially, I planned that 2 Flash would be enough, but 2.5 is even better. We now have quota management, rate limits, and audit history. The dashboard is showing successfully, and in Phase 4, we will start testing the lemon squeezy integration. This is also one of the massive challenges: the pricing page, the webhook handler, and building the monthly submissions. I think we can close this session here, and when we enter Phase 4, we will open a new session. I'll tell Claude Code to note this. I want to close this session. When I start Session 4, I would open a new session. Make sure the new session can reread the memory and understand the whole context without rereading the whole code base. As you can see, Claude Code is working and updating the memory. Now, look at our code base. From a time when we had nothing, a completely empty folder, we now have a very complete, massive code base that is ready to go online. With just a few more features, can you see the greatness of vibe coding in this new era? Of course, we need some background knowledge in programming, but that's okay. Just by practicing and doing many projects, we will build that background. I believe by now, Claude Code has mastered the workflow, and there won't be any specific errors when integrating lemon squeezy routes in packages like Variant, Starter, Pro, and Master. Along with the store ID, webhooks, and API keys. Lemon Squeezy can communicate directly with our app so it can call into Supabase. I almost forgot we should check Supabase to see if our account count has gone down to 4, to see if 1 submission was deducted. And here, as you can see, the audit subscription total was initially 5, and after performing 1 audit task, it's now down to 4. So, our app is running perfectly. I'll probably approve this plan for the Phase 4 update. Currently, We've only had 2 working sessions, but we've covered more than half the journey. I think this is quite good progress. The total time to build this entire project framework was only a few hours, not several days as Claude Code originally estimated. So, if you have any ideas or want to build any app, you can absolutely do it in this day and age. Memory has been updated. Phase 4 will continue by reading the project, progress, MD files, and integrating the Lemon Squeezy API keys. Okay, I think this will be quite a challenge, but I will get through it with you. I'm going to start a new session and tell Claude Code to reread the memory and identify what will be handled in this session. I'll approve that right away. So, in this session, we'll be doing things like adding all 5 Lemon Squeezy APIs into our env.local file. This is the core task of Phase 4, integrating the payment gateway. Now, I'll go to Lemon Squeezy. The website is lemonsqueezy.com. Let's get started. Just sign up with a Gmail account, and I'll confirm this email. You can give your store an appealing name. This is totally up to you. There are no strict rules. What name are you thinking of? I think I'll go with Elias Store. I'll choose the United States as the country. Oh, that name is already taken. I'll try another one. Elias Leo. Okay, that one's approved. Now that we're inside the store, there are a few things to do. You don't need to verify your identity yet, nor do you need to set up 2-factor authentication just yet. The first thing we need is an API key from Lemon Squeezy. Notice that we're in test mode. Once we've completed these 2 tasks, we can turn off test mode. But for now, it's perfect for testing our projects. One thing I love about Lemon Squeezy is how easy it is to toggle test mode. You can switch back and forth between test and real mode seamlessly. In test mode, users can use simulators like the 4242 card to test features. Then, with just one click, you can switch to real mode where users have to use real cards. The best part is the switch is effortless. You don't have to reconfigure API keys like the store ID, product ID, or variant ID. On the other hand, with Stripe, switching modes means you have to reconfigure all your keys, which is very inconvenient when you need to test repeatedly. That's why I recommend using Lemon Squeezy. It's popular in many countries, almost globally. The first step is getting our API. I'll create a Lemon Squeezy API key. You could call this the ultimate API because every event recorded by the app must pass through it to communicate with the payment gateway. Let's name it Ecosystem App Key and generate it. Keep in mind, this API key only appears once. If you close this tab, it's gone. That's why we must copy it quickly and save it somewhere. I'll save it directly into the Lemon Squeezy API key variable for our testing. The second thing to configure is the webhook. Here, we have several fields to set up, like the signing secret. You can set this to any code you like. For example, I'll use 120522026 Elias Leo, and then save it as Lemon Squeezy webhook secret. These are the events that trigger when a user goes through the payment process. We'll select everything from order to subscription. Remember, orders usually relate to physical products, while subscriptions are for digital products and apps. Actually, you can just select them all. It's not an issue. Regarding the callback URL, you must have a domain to receive payment signals when a user is charged. This part gets a bit complex because the tasks overlap. Don't worry, I'll show you how to borrow a temporary URL that runs live on the internet for testing, using a local server simulator called NGROK. I'll explain a bit about how our payment gateway flow works. When a user starts using the app and feels like, oh, this app is great, it's amazing, and they decide they need to upgrade to the Max plan to unlock all features. Clicking that Max plan button will generate a checkout link. That checkout link will look like your storename.lemonsqueezy.com/checkout. followed by a string like ABC, which is commonly referred to as a slug. Once the payment is received from the user, this checkout link sends a notification to the Lemon Squeezy server. On the Lemon Squeezy server, our app domain is designated as the webhook app domain. This is the webhook that receives instructions from the Lemon Squeezy server. After our app domain receives the signal, it parses key information, the user ID, who the user is and what ID they registered with, the product ID, what product they are purchasing, and specifically which package they chose, Starter, Pro, or Max, which is identified by the variant ID. Once Lemon Squeezy identifies this information, it reports back to the database. At this point, our Supabase database receives signals like, hey, this user ID wants to buy this product with this specific variant. The database then activates the features for the user to use. This is the complete path of our payment flow. Now, the role of the NGROK server is to provide us with a temporary domain, such as audit-app.ngrokfree.app or xyz.ngrokfree.app/API/webhook. We will take that URL provided by NGROK and paste it into our callback URL or webhook settings. That is the entire flow, and that's exactly why we use NGROK. A free plan is more than enough for our testing today. There's no need to spend $8 on a static domain right now. To get started, head over to ngrok.com/download. It's showing the Windows version here because I'm using Windows, so NGROK provides this version for us to download. The download and installation process is very straightforward. Just click Next, 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 Next. Once the installation is complete, you'll have the NGROK terminal. This is the version of NGROK I've downloaded to my machine, and I'll give it a test run. Here is the NGROK terminal interface. We'll start operating here to generate a temporary URL provided by NGROK. However, before launching the terminal, go to your NGROK dashboard and grab this entire code. NGROK config add auth token. Copy the whole auth token and paste it into our app's terminal. I'll open the terminal within the app and navigate to the project directory we're working on. We'll paste the entire code right here. Okay, it's running successfully. Now, I'll run npm run dev. There we go. The app is starting up. Next, since we are running on localhost port 3000, I'll open the NGROK terminal again and run the command ngrok http 3000, and we've successfully launched it. As you can see, we now have a temporary URL. This URL is crucial. Whenever a payment signal occurs, it will hit this URL, redirect to our localhost, and flow directly into our codebase. From the codebase, it will communicate with and update our Supabase database. Now, let's take this URL and paste it into the webhook callback URL on Lemon Squeezy. Note that we need to append a specific path to the URL /API/webhooks/Lemon Squeezy. In the Lemon Squeezy settings, let's grab the signing secret. We'll select the events for order and subscription. These are the events triggered when a user completes a payment on our app. Now, click Save. All right, we've successfully saved the webhook. The next task we need to handle on Lemon Squeezy is creating the products and their variants. To do this, go to the Store section, under Products, and create a new product. I'll temporarily name this block Pricing Plan. You can skip the optional parts, but anything marked with an asterisk is mandatory. Since our app is a SaaS, I'll choose subscription instead of single payment. Single payment is typically for physical goods. I'll leave the price field here for now because we aren't setting a single price for the product itself, but rather for each individual variant. The billing cycle should be set to monthly, as we will charge customers every month. Software as a service, that's correct. Now, let's start creating the variants. Based on the original design of our 4-app suite, specifically the Audit App, we will have 4 variants. First is the free plan. Since it's free, we'll just leave it as is. Next is the starter plan. Just proceed normally here. Our starter plan will be priced at $9. Save and move to the next one. The second variant is the Pro plan, also a subscription, priced at $19. Click Save and add another. Finally, we create the version named Max, also a subscription, at $49. Let's save that. All right, now we hit Publish Product. We have our first product ready. Now, I'll show you how to get the IDs, as these IDs are actually our payment links. My goal is that when a customer clicks the payment button, all 3 pricing plans will appear. For the starter plan, if the checkout link is triggered, all 3 plans show up, but the bullet indicator will be positioned on starter. For the Pro plan, the bullet will be on the Pro button, and for the Max plan, it will be on the Max package. Regardless of the choice, all 3 tiers will be displayed simultaneously. But first, I need to grab each ID. For the starter plan, I'll copy the ID and paste it into the .env.local file. Its ID is 1643197. For the Pro plan, the ID is 1643200. And for the Max plan, the ID is 1643201. We have one more ID left, the Lemon Squeezy Store ID. You can find this in Settings, under the Store section. This is the Store ID. I'll paste it into our Apps, Env, local file. Done. We now have all 5 necessary keys for Lemon Squeezy. I'll tell Claude Code. I have finished inserting 5 keys of Lemon Squeezy into nv.local. Now you can build necessary files. By the way, commit phase 3 and start phase 4. I also created URL from NGROK successfully. Temporarily, I am ready for test features according to the pricing plan. This means we are ready to test the expanded features. I will act as a user attempting to pay for the higher tier plans to test the new, extended features of the app just like a real person would. And Claude Code is actively implementing these changes. Okay, Claude has informed us that we can start running npm run dev for the Audit App using the link we created in the NGROK terminal. After that, we'll monitor the changes in Supabase. We'll open the Supabase database to check, and at the same time, we'll run this command in the SQL editor to create a new table. Okay, I'll follow Claude's instructions, but Claude is missing something, which I'll address in a moment. I'm going into the Supabase SQL editor to create a new query as Claude requested. I'll paste the entire SQL schema file here and run it. It looks like there's a slight issue. I'll tell Claude, error in SQL editor in Supabase. Okay, Claude says cron hasn't been activated yet. We need to turn it on. Step 1. Go to Extensions in the Supabase dashboard. Search for PG, cron, and enable it. Now, let's rerun the code in the SQL editor. There we go. We have a result. Now we'll test a real payment transaction from the free plan to the starter plan on our own domain. But before that, I need to point out a missing piece to Claude. Hey Claude, it seems you are missing something. This is the checkout link for the pricing. I will give it to you before we are ready for testing because the checkout payment will send a signal to the Lemon Squeezy server. Now, here's all. I'll paste the Lemon Squeezy checkout links for each variant here so Claude can insert them into the necessary files. This ensures that when a user clicks a plan, the correct checkout link appears for Starter, Pro, or Max. Claude mentioned that our .env file uses numeric IDs for variants, while the checkout links use a hexadecimal slug format. Claude wants to fix this, but I don't think we need to overcomplicate it. Lemon Squeezy recently updated, so using numeric IDs is perfectly fine. Plus, since I'm providing the full checkout links, the system will automatically extract the custom user ID, product ID, and variant ID. It's totally normal, so no need to worry. I have a quick question for you. Are we ready to test purchasing, upgrading, and using the features yet? Many would say yes, but for convenience, I'll take it one step further. I'll have Claude implement the Proration feature right now. The reason is that we can use a single email to upgrade from free to starter, then to pro, and see the price difference in real time. Upgrading to the max plan will then unlock all features. We can test the entire flow in one go. I'll tell Claude, "Hi Claude, why don't you implement the Proration feature for the prices?" Because when we do it, we will have a chance for testing every function in one time, from free plan to starter, pro, and max, without needing to double register for retesting. Let me briefly explain Proration. If a customer goes from free to starter and pays $9, that's standard. But if they are already on starter and want to upgrade to pro, we shouldn't charge them the full $19. That wouldn't be fair and would hurt our reputation. Proration solves this. The customer only pays the difference, for example, $10. Similarly, moving from pro to max would only cost an extra $30, or jumping from starter to max would cost $49 minus the $9 already paid. Claude Code has provided a testing framework. Pay for starter, check the database to see if the submission limit hits 30, then upgrade to pro, then max, and finally try canceling. Now, I'm heading to localhost to test it out. I'm in the app now, and I'll try an old script with about 487 words. I'll click Audit My Script. Seeing these lines in the terminal means the app is running great. The 200 status codes confirm that everything dashboard, login, and audit is working perfectly. Now, I'll head over to the pricing page and try upgrading to the starter plan. I think we have an issue here because the pricing page is not working. I tried clicking the upgrade buttons, but there's no response at all. That's the first problem. The second issue is that I want a humanize button here. Of course, this is for the max plans, but I want a specific button labeled Upgrade to Open Humanize function. When a user clicks this, it should take them directly to the checkout page for the max plan. The third point is regarding the history page. We need to display the user's work history, and under each task, there should be a Humanize button. And the fourth problem I need Claude to fix immediately is the NGROK URL. When I tried using the URL provided by NGROK to log in, nothing happened, which proves there's a connection issue with the tunnel. So, I'm going to tell Claude to fix all 4 issues at once. We have 4 problems. The pricing plan. When I try to click the upgrade button, nothing happened. Second, I want to have a button beneath each detector result, meaning when users are in free, starter, or pro plan, they can click this button and it directs them to a checkout for the max plan. The third problem. In history, I want this page to display what tasks users have done, and it must have the Humanize button. For the past tasks, when they were in a lower plan like free, starter, or pro, they only had the detection and scoring function. So, if they want to upgrade their plan, they click the Humanize button to unlock the function. This button will be linked to each specific task. And the fourth problem. In the NGROK terminal, I don't see any 200 signals, and the temporary URL we get from NGROK does not work. I can't log in. All right, Claude has fixed all 4 errors for us. Regarding the first error, I'm aware we can only use localhost, 3,000 for now. We don't necessarily need to log in via the temporary NGROK URL. Localhost, 3,000 is enough. However, I want to make sure the tunnel connection is working correctly. Right now, I don't see the connection. The terminal is still showing 304. We can only consider it a successful connection when it shows a 200 signal. As for the second issue, as I mentioned, I wanted an upgrade to max button. I don't think Claude Code has fixed anything yet, because when I go to the pricing page and try to upgrade the plan, there's still no signal whatsoever. Claude Code did create a history page and link those upgrade packages to redirect to the pricing plan. But when I click the upgrade button, no checkout link appears at all. That's why I'd say Claude Code has only handled about 20% of the errors I told it to fix. Another crucial point. When I use the NGROK link, it's still showing a 304 error instead of 200. This means the terminal connection hasn't been established successfully. Claude Code is still insisting on using port 3000. Fine, I agree. We can use port 3000 and don't necessarily need the temporary NGROK URL. However, I must ensure the tunnel port is connected properly. It's only acceptable if we see a 200 signal. So, I'm going to tell Claude again, "Hey Claude, you haven't handled anything." In the history page, beneath the tasks, I saw the upgrade button, but when I click it, it does not display the checkout link. And about the URL we got from NGROK. I agree that we do not need to log in via this domain, but I want to make sure the tunnel runs well. In the NGROK terminal, there is still no 200 signal. Maybe you misunderstood me. I want the tunnel to run well, not just the domain. The domain may be error. That's okay. But the tunnel must run well. I also want to clarify the logic for the upgrade button. The upgrade button on the history page should work like this. Any task that has already been processed by the humanize function doesn't need to be humanized again, because a max plan user has already handled it. I only want to place this button on tasks that haven't been humanized yet. Therefore, users on free, starter, or pro plans will need it to continue humanizing their scripts. But if a script hasn't been humanized even after a user upgrades to the max plan, they would still need that button. However, if a task has already been through humanization, why would it need to go through it again? There's no need. Okay, fix those errors. Alright, now Claude Code is starting to fix a few things, and we might be able to test the humanize features as I described. As for the NGROK check, it suggests that instead of using port 3000, we should switch to using port 4040. Alright, after a bit of a struggle, Claude Code has successfully fixed it. Let's run a test. I'm currently on the pricing plan page, and I'll try upgrading to the starter plan to see if the checkout link appears. Okay, I'm buying the starter plan. I'll enter the card number 4242. This is a test card for development purposes. I'm testing the $9 payment with this virtual card to see if our database actually updates. And there we go, payment successful. Now, let's check the database. As you can see, we've been upgraded to the starter plan with 30 submissions per month. Back on localhost, after a quick refresh, the UI also reflects the 30 monthly submissions. Perfect. Now, let's try something else. I'll use a script with a title and some content to test the flow. We have the results for this script, and now an upgrade to Max button appears. I'm going to upgrade directly to Max instead of going through the Pro plan, specifically to test if our Proration feature is working correctly. If Proration is functional, I should only be charged the difference, $49 minus the $9 I already paid, which is $40. Let's subscribe now. Entering the card details again. Okay, payment successful, and I've upgraded straight to the Max plan. Checking localhost again. Here we are, on the Max plan, and the database is updated to 90 submissions per month. Now, I want to check the invoice to see the final charge. It shows I was charged the full $49, which proves the proration feature is still failing. I'm going to tell Claude to fix this. I think we successfully fixed the pricing function when I tried it in checkout with the right update in DB. Our plans are upgraded, but the proration is still not done. When I paid $9 for starter and then upgraded to the $9 max plan, it should have charged only $40 more, but they charged $49 instead. Fix that function. All right, Claude has finished fixing the proration feature. I'm going to test it right now. Currently, I am using the starter plan. I'll go ahead and enter the 42 card number. This is a test card, so you can enter any numbers for the rest. I'm paying $9 for this starter plan. And there we go. The payment for the starter plan is successful. Now, I'll head back to localhost, and as you can see, we have been upgraded to the starter plan. Checking the database, this email and user ID have also just been updated to the starter plan. Next, I'm going to proceed with upgrading this email and this user to the max plan. Now, it's clear the app only charged me $40. I have successfully upgraded to the max plan and only paid an extra $40 instead of the full $49. The invoice in my email has also been updated accordingly. This proves that our proration feature is working perfectly. Are there any lingering tasks in Phase 4? I think we've covered everything. I'll ask, everything okay? Is there anything in Phase 4 needed to be handled? Claude Code confirmed that Phase 4 is complete. It was truly one of the most intense and brain-racking phases I've ever experienced while vibe coding. I'll probably remember this working session forever. We've accomplished so much, and it's definitely time to celebrate. Here's what we've done. Pricing page with 4 tier cards. LS webhook handler. Secured with HMAC, ensuring idempotency, and handling all 5 major events. Checkout creation with user, ID and custom data. Upgrade checkout with prorated price and an LS confirmation page. Supabase cron for monthly reset. Moving into Phase 5, we'll transition into a much smoother part, updating the Anthropic key in the .env file. I'll tell Claude, good. Now, update to memory and I will open a new chat session. So the new session will reread the memory and grasp what has been done and what is to be done next without reading the whole source code. And that's it. In the new session for Phase 5, we will insert the Anthropic API and handle the humanized tasks using the Sonnet 4.5 model. Let's get to it. I'm starting a new chat session because it looks like the previous one has reached its full context. We've truly struggled through Phases 3 and 4, but we finally made it. Integrating the Gemini API, handling Google's request blocking, and setting up the lemon squeezy webhooks endpoints were massive challenges. From Phase 5 onwards, things should be much smoother. I'm going to tell Claude, reread the memory and identify what will be done in this session, maybe Phase 5. Check and tell me your plan today. Claude Code suggests fixing the hydration mismatch, also known as flickering in Next.js, to avoid getting stuck in a loop like we did during the webhook integration. It also wants to write a hidden prompt for Anthropic to handle the humanization task. However, I don't quite trust it with this part. I'll be writing that hidden prompt myself to integrate into the client.ts file, as I have a much better prompt than what the AI would generate. And here's the plan for Phase 5. I'm glad it hasn't lost sight of our original goal, implementing prompt caching by coordinating the 2 most powerful APIs in our Audit App, Gemini and Anthropic. This will save us nearly 90% in humanization costs. Since the Gemini API handles many tasks at a low cost, while the Anthropic API provides the refined, high-quality output we need at a higher price, coordinating them is an absolute must. In short, The critical steps are finalizing the route and client and installing the Anthropic SDK. That's Claude's job. My part is to secure the API key and prepare the humanized prompt suite. Let me explain the prompt caching mechanism in the simplest way possible. Imagine this. Every time we ask Claude to humanize a piece of text, we have to send along a massive Constitution the System prompt, which includes scoring rules, writing styles, and personal tones, totaling over 2,000 words. Without caching, every time a user clicks that button, Anthropic charges you for those 2,000 words all over again. It's like having to pay the full token cost for every single request, as if it were the first time. With caching, we attach a sticky note, a cache control header, to that Constitution. Anthropic will then memorize it and store it in a temporary cabinet. The next time a user clicks the button, Claude just looks at the header and realizes, it's the same old set of rules. I've got it memorized. No need to charge me for reading it again. You only pay for the new text the user just sent. This can save you up to 90% on input costs. And I'm going to approve this plan right now, letting Claude handle its business while I take care of mine. First, I need to get the API key to insert into the env file. I'll head over to the Anthropic website at console.anthropic.com. Next, go to the Manage tab, then the API Keys section, and click Create Key. I'll give it a name, for example, 01 Audit App Key. Make sure to copy this key and paste it into the Anthropic API Key section. Keep in mind that this key is only displayed once. If you close this tab, you won't be able to see it again, so you must save it immediately. Great! Claude Code has finished its part. The Flickr issue is fixed, and the Anthropic SDK is successfully installed. Now, I'm going to send the humanized script prompt to Claude Code so it can insert it into the client.ts file and then move forward with deploying the route.ts file. This is the humanized prompt that I've prepared. You can certainly write your own humanization prompt. It's actually quite simple to do. But then again, if you're feeling a bit lazy or just don't want to write it yourself, feel free to take mine and use it. Consider it a gift for making it this far in the tutorial. I'm going to paste the prompt here so Claude can use it immediately without any unnecessary definitions or detours. At the same time, I'll tell it, feel free to use this prompt and put it directly into the client.ts file. Use it as a const system prompt, no need to rewrite it. The Anthropic API has already been successfully inserted into the env file. Go ahead and implement everything to finalize Phase 5. Done! Phase 5 is now complete, and the humanized prompt set has been successfully integrated into the client.ts file. Now, we are ready to test it live on localhost. With all the APIs inserted, I'm going to open the terminal, navigate to the Audit App directory, run the npm run dev command, and start testing on our localhost environment. I'm going to use a script written by ChatGPT in the field of crime. I really love this topic. I'll paste the title and the full script into the Audit App dashboard. Click Audit Script, and let's wait a moment for the AI slop scoring results based on these criteria: cliché load, voice flatness, and idea recycling. Below that, the app highlights the specific sections flagged for causing AI slop errors. And we have a humanized script button right here. Let's click it and wait. The app is calling the Anthropic API to rewrite the script. We are literally burning money on tokens right now, guys. And it's a success. Yeah, we did it. We won. We now have a brand new script that has been successfully humanized. And so, Phase 5 is officially complete. To see if there are any remaining issues, I'm going to check in with Claude. Wait a second. Claude is reporting that we've finished the client.ts file, implemented prompt caching in root.ts, successfully installed the Anthropic SDK, and ensured that the humanized feature only appears for Max Plan subscribers. We also fixed the flickering issue, and Claude even gave us a bonus copy script button. So, I'm going to commit phase 5 and move immediately to phase 6, refining the UI. Claude pointed out that the current landing page is a bit too simple. It needs a headline and subheadline, a how it works section, pricing view cards, and frequently asked questions, and a footer with links. The account page is also missing, so we need to create it with the current plan name, a progress bar, reset date, account email, and the lemon squeezy customer portal integration. Plus, the setting page hasn't been built yet either. Claude Code asked a few questions regarding the direction, and I think I'll let Claude get creative with the landing page. You can write headline or tagline depending on your creative ability. As for the setting page, I think the current plan is fine. Additionally, I'm going to send over a dashboard UI that I've been referencing from Dribbble.com. There are so many amazing designers on there, so I'm going to borrow some of their ideas. I'm not a design expert, and I don't want to turn our app into a disaster by relying solely on my own skills. Instead, I'm going to use the ideas of champions. I'm going to head over to Dribbble.com to check out some UI dashboard samples. I really like this one. The colors are a bit dark, the text is bright, and the fonts are crisp. It looks very cool, just like the dashboards used by crypto traders or stockbrokers, basically like something a millionaire would use. I'll save this and send it to Claude for reference. I want Claude to take inspiration from the background colors and fonts to create high contrast. If the background is dark, the text must be bright. Also, the landing page, dashboard, history, and settings pages should all be consistent in terms of color and layout. And for the dashboard, I want it to follow the reference sample. The menu items should be arranged vertically in a left sidebar. Don't put them on a horizontal menu bar like those websites from the early 2000s. Wow, this is our new interface, and it looks absolutely beautiful. Everything from the landing page to the dashboard, history, settings, and account looks spot on. I want to keep this layout so we can reuse it later on. Yes, I see. Perfect. But add some testimonials to the landing page. Then, remember this structure and UI design, so when we build the next 3 apps, we will use this layout for all of them to create a consistent portfolio and raise the vibe branding. As you can see, maintaining a consistent UI, UX, is incredibly important. Not only does it save us time when developing the next applications, but it also creates a cohesive portfolio that significantly elevates the brand identity of our entire ecosystem. I'm satisfied with this UI, and I think there's nothing left to worry about in phase 6. I'm going to have Claude check if there are any remaining issues in this phase. If not, go ahead and commit, update the memory, and start outlining the plan for phase 7 right away. This is the plan for phase 7. It outlines the strategy for building our second app right away, the thumbnail generator. This is one of the 3 bonus apps included in our plan for users who choose to activate the Max plan on our first Audit app. However, I feel like Claude Code is moving a bit too fast here. Since we've finished the first Audit app, which was the most difficult and energy-consuming part, why don't we deploy it to the internet now to get that sense of reaching the finish line? Moreover, deploying it will help us fix potential bugs that might not show up in our local environment. Once this foundation is solid, building apps 2, 3, and 4 will be extremely simple. So, I'm going to tell Claude to wrap everything up for app number 1 first. I think you are going too fast. Why don't you have plan to deploy the first app, the Audit app, before thinking of building app 02? Because when deploying first app, we can complete everything and fix all bug that local environment can handle. And we also have the official domain borrowed from Netlify to integrate to webhooks without worrying about the chaining unsteadily from NGROK. Now sketch steps to deploy app 01 to Netlify that get codebase from GitHub. All right. I see this plan is very solid because Claude Code proactively runs npm run build first instead of rushing into deployment. When pushing to GitHub, issues will arise because GitHub's latest updates restrict external requests from accessing accounts directly. Therefore, I'll tell Claude Code to plan ahead by generating a GitHub token for a 90-day access period. Since we have a .gitignore file, It will skip the env file, which contains our sensitive APIs. We won't be deploying this file. Instead, we'll paste its content into Netlify's environment variables. I'll guide you through this process later. Even though we haven't reached phase 7 yet, I want to remind Claude Code never to mention the term credit like it did in App 01. So, I'm going to tell Claude that and approve this plan. Claude Code wants me to manually create a private repository on GitHub with no README and no gitignore. Then generate a personal access token valid for 90 days and run the commands below. I'm going to GitHub to create an account. I'll go with the name Elias Leo 2026. It sounds pretty cool. Let's start by creating a repo and setting it to private. I won't enable the README, and I'll skip the gitignore as well. Done. So now we have a repo named YouTube Creator Suite. Next, I'll go to the account settings, hit developer settings, then personal access tokens, and generate the token from there. I'm setting the expiration to 90 days. I'll make sure to copy and save this token somewhere safe, because once I leave this page, it'll be gone forever. Now I'm going to run the command in the terminal. I'll just copy the exact command Claude Code provided and replace the GitHub repo link with the one I just created. Pay attention to a very important point. We must check if the .gitignore file is in the root directory and if it includes the .env and node modules lines. Because without this .gitignore file, the system will push all of our secrets to the internet, and honestly, we'd go bankrupt. I've checked, and everything looks fine, so let's run the command. A window pops up asking us to log into GitHub. I'll log in and authorize it in the browser. Now I'll open my email to get the verification code. All right, we've logged in successfully. Let's wait a moment and check the terminal. It's pushing everything to GitHub, excluding the env file and node modules. Let's check our YouTube Creator Suite repository on GitHub. Fantastic. We have the complete source code for the entire project right here. Just one more step and our app will be live on the internet, ready to start making money. I'm going to deploy it on Netlify because it integrates perfectly with GitHub. I'll register an account, set a name, handle the basic setup, and answer a few simple questions. More importantly, for about 500 to 2,000 users per month, Netlify's free plan is more than enough to run all 4 of our apps smoothly. Every new account gets 400 credits. Once you're profitable and want to scale, that's when you should put your money down. Now, let's start the deployment. I'll connect Netlify to my GitHub account. Authorize successfully. It automatically detects the repos in my GitHub. Let's select one and name the project. I'll name it 01-Audit App to distinguish it from the 3 apps coming later. Okay, this name works, and it will also serve as the app's domain. Pay close attention to the base directory. This field is critical. It's exactly where Netlify pulls the source code from your GitHub repo to push it to the web. You must enter the folder name correctly. In our case, it's 01-Audit-App. In the build command section, if you see npm run build, it means the codebase is error-free and the next.js framework is running perfectly. Now for a crucial part, add environment variables. This is where your app's APIs live. Since we didn't push our .env file to the web, we'll paste it here. Copy the entire content of your .env file into this field. Do not check the content secret value box, as Netlify might block the deployment to prevent potential leaks. Finally, hit the deploy button. Done! Our app is officially live on the internet, but we aren't finished yet. Many people forget this part. Since our domain is now 01-audit-app.netlify.app, we must update the configuration in Supabase and Lemon Squeezy, where we previously used a temporary localhost domain. I'll go to Supabase, then Authentication, and into URL configuration. I'll insert the domain in two spots, site URL and redirect URL. For the redirect URL specifically, you must append /auth/callback. Moving on to Lemon Squeezy, go to Settings, then Webhook, and enter our new domain. Make sure to keep the /API/webhooks/lemon squeezy part. And that's it. Everything is set. Congratulations. You've just built your own audit script app and started making money on the internet. So, everything for the audit app is completed. Let's close those terrible tasks and update the memory. Therefore, we're also closing this session and opening a new one for Phase 7. Now, don't hesitate to open a new session. In this new chat, I want Claude to reread the memory and the file 02 thumbnail app.md. Let's wait a moment and see what it plans to do. And here is the plan. Yes, app02 will be a separate Netlify site, even though they share the same root, YouTube Creator Suite on GitHub. Only max plan users of app01 can use app02. But we need to change the column names in the DB. I agree with the per domain login approach. Regarding the model, we need to adjust it, and the scaffold must follow the same structure for all 4 apps. I understand your sketch, but I have reminded you many times, never refer to the term credit. It's already updated in the memory. Why do you never follow this? Rename the DB columns to thumbnail, generations remaining in thumbnail, generations total. As for the model, use Gemini 2.0 or 2.5, Flash, not Imagen 3.0. This app needs a model that can read reference images to understand the style, not just read text. Make sure the SQL migration reflects these name changes and creates the thumbnail, uploads, and thumbnail outputs buckets. Now, you can build the scaffold for app02, thumbnail app. All 4 apps will have the same structure. Follow the first prompt strictly to avoid any mistakes. And so, Claude Code has finished building the scaffold for app02, a very massive directory set. These are the steps Claude instructed me to do. For this part, we must do it ourselves, because it is outside the IDE and Claude Code cannot intervene in the configuration. First, I will go to Supabase and configure it. This part is quite complex, so please read the 001_thumbnail_schema.sql file carefully. First, I will have to create a query in the SQL editor. Copy the entire contents of this file into the editor to create the tables. Next is creating the buckets. There must be buckets so users can upload reference images and download results to their computers. For those who are not familiar with databases like me, just read the instructions in the SQL file. I will go to the storage section. Select New Bucket. Name it thumbnail-uploads. Press Create. We now have the thumbnail-uploads bucket. Continue similarly with thumbnail-outputs. For each folder, we will configure the RLS policy for each one. For thumbnail upload, I will click on it. Select New Policy. Select Full Customization. Here, just name it as suggested in the migration file. Note that we should click on the 2 buttons, Insert and Select, which means users will have the right to upload their reference images and they can see them. In the Target Role section, I will select Authenticated. This is important because Authenticated will help each user only see their own files and not be able to see others. At the last line is Policy Definition. It has already configured the bucket ID. However, we have to do one more thing, which is adding the line. This helps isolate user data instead of leaving it exposed. Supabase will check only when the folder name matches the user's UID identifier will it allow access. This ensures absolute privacy. I will click the Review button, and it shows the SQL code snippets for this bucket. I click Save. Do the same for the Thumbnail Outputs bucket. The only difference is that here, the user does not have the Insert button, only Select. So, that is it. We have finished configuring the RLS policy for the entire app02 thumbnail generator. We will go back and handle the env file next. Here, I will create an env.local file. First, I will enter the URL of app01, 02-audit-app.netlify.app. Copy all API keys from Supabase and the Gemini key of app01 to app02 and save it. This task is very fast. Continuing to step number 3, I will navigate to the 02 thumbnail app folder and run the command npm install. Once this step is finished, we can deploy it on the internet on Netlify. But first, I will test on localhost first to make sure it runs smoothly. Open terminal, run npm run dev. Go to localhost port 3000. I will enter the inputs here. I have prepared an input file along with image references. One is the narrator's image, one is the style image. If you like, I can give them to you. First, I will paste the topic in this box. Next is pasting the full script here. I will continue to upload 2 images. Then the style I want to follow. Finally, a few modify sentences. Something like, please take the narrator in image 1, combine with the style in image 2 to produce the thumbnail. And the text on the thumbnail should not overlap with the text on the topic. Ratio aspect is always 16:9. And done, I have the result. Very wonderful. Here, for each result, I can choose to modify further or download to the computer if satisfied. So my app is successful and ready to be put on Netlify. I will tell Claude, thumbnail app has run successfully. Now is the time I will put it on GitHub and link through Netlify. Please guide me to put it on GitHub, and I want the directory 02-thumbnail-app to have one repository on GitHub, located in the root repo YouTube-creator-suite. So now I will go out to the root directory, run the command to push source code to GitHub. Look, our 02-thumbnail-app directory has appeared here, standing alongside the 01 directory. Now I will head over to Netlify. I will do all the same operations as app01. For example, reusing the YouTube Creator Suite directory. In the naming part, just name it normally. It will also be the domain name we intend to deploy on the internet. Oh, it seems not possible yet because someone has used this name. No problem, just add a letter and it's fixed. Specifically in the base directory section, we will point exactly to the app02 folder with the name 02-thumbnail-app. Continue to environment variables. Copy the entire env.local file in. Very familiar. And hit deploy now. Look, our second app is officially running on the internet. We have another money-making machine, and the construction of the second app is complete. I will tell Claude Code to commit phase 7 and update the memory. In phase number 8, we will build app number 3, which is 03 Idea App. Since building these apps is very fast, no need to open a new session. Let's continue. And here is the plan for phase 8. And with 2 questions, I will answer them. Question number 1, should use UTC time. Question number 2, let Gemini handle all URLs by itself. So the 03 Idea App directory has also appeared. Very massive. And Claude Code has handled quite a bit. It told me I could deploy to Netlify right away. But wait, there are a lot of problems here. It created the schema.sql file in the deploy section, but didn't tell me to do the query task in the DB. It didn't tell me to run the install command to create the framework for Next.js. And it didn't tell me to insert the API into the env.local file. It's crazy, so careless, so lazy. I'm going to scold it. I will fix it myself without needing its reminders anymore. First, I will run the npm install command. Next, I will copy the entire contents of this schema file into the SQL editor. Finally, I will handle the env.local file by copying the entire contents from app02 to app03. And I will try running npm run dev in local to see if it's complete. I will choose a topic, for example, ChatGPT. I like the field of making money online, about YouTube channels for reference. I don't need this, can skip it, and press generate. Wait a moment, and there are results immediately. We have a series of ideas with scores evaluated from the app about the possibility of this idea going viral, with each concept included. With this app, you will create countless ideas for yourself without having to think tiredly. Okay, so this app has run successfully, and we start to deploy it. I will check a bit on GitHub. Sure enough, it's even more careless than I thought when it arbitrarily pushed the defective source code to Git. I will tell it again. You have pushed the uncompleted codebase to repo 03 idea app to GitHub. So stupid. Now I fix something. Push again. And after pushing, we start to deploy to Netlify. Nothing complicated. Exactly the same as app 01 and 02. Create project. Point to repo. YouTube Creator Suite. Create domain name. Create base directory. Fill in the environment variables. Press deploy. Wait a bit. And the third money-making machine is officially on air. App 03 was successful. We will commit phase number 8, update memory, and prepare for phase number 9, build app 04, which is the viral script generator app. Claude, please read the 04 script app.md file for reference and stick to the design to avoid errors. I don't need to open a new session because the context in this session is still plenty, and we have reached the last app already. As long as Claude Code sticks to the plan we built from the very first minutes of this video, we will cross the finish line beautifully. And here's the plan for phase number 9. It's quite complete. It asks me whether users should be able to regenerate scripts by selecting a whole block, or if they can be flexible and select any part they want. In my opinion, we should choose the whole block to avoid complex code. And since this app is just an example, it doesn't need to be as professional as big tech companies. Stick with block level for the regenerate section. It's cleaner and aligns with our section tags. The code is done. The 04-script-app directory set is built. And as usual, I just run it in the terminal, go to the project directory, and run the npm install command. I will paste the contents of the schema file for this app 04 into the SQL editor in the DB and launch it. I create the env.local file again and copy all content from app 03 to app 04. After saving, I go back to the terminal and run npm run dev. Let's start testing on localhost. Here I will use a set of inputs, including one title and one script prepared in advance. Copy them into the input fields on this app 04. I will drop a few keywords that I want to describe. Drag this bar to adjust the duration for the video. I'll choose 5 minutes. And my goal when making a video based on this script, of course, is to make money from YouTube ads. I will make videos for young people who want to learn about finance, the types that textbooks don't teach, with a fun style, a bit sarcastic, but very informative, and just hit generate. Great. The result is that I have a complete script set. Our app automatically creates blocks, with a grading scale for each part. And when you are not satisfied with any block, just select it and click Regenerate. That means our app strictly complies with the original design I set from the beginning of the video. I will go back to Claude Code and tell it to push the 04-script-app folder to GitHub, but remember to npm run build before pushing. Everything is almost done. I will check on GitHub. And here, the app 04 folder has appeared and is ready to link to Netlify. It seems you are very familiar by now. I won't guide much again. Just do exactly what was done with the previous 3 apps. We will successfully deploy to Netlify, officially having app 04 running on the internet. Do you feel great? Our ecosystem is officially completed. There are 2 things I forgot to tell you during the deployment process. No matter what project we do, before deploying, always run the npm run build command. Because when deploying to the internet, the environment is slightly different from local. It will detect many errors that local cannot see. Second is in the DB URL configuration section. Always fill in all domains of the 4 apps, as shown on the screen. And so, we have accompanied each other on a journey of more than 2 hours to build an ecosystem consisting of 4 SaaS apps that can be put into operation to make money immediately. That's right, 4 full apps, not just 1 app. We have truly built an ecosystem, just as I promised at the beginning. Of course, there are still a few minor setups that I haven't guided you through, such as adding beautiful domains and enabling real mode in Lemon Squeezy so you can receive real money. But that is not important because there are dozens of videos instructing those operations, and they are also very simple. You can set them up in less than 1 minute. The important thing is that I am very happy to have conveyed to you a framework of knowledge that almost every vibe coding project out there is doing. There is knowledge that I have shared sincerely, knowledge that I know some gurus charge you hundreds of dollars for. For me, I do not hide or sell anything. I only need you to support me with likes, shares, and subscriptions. The final takeaway I want to say is that when you start vibe coding, regardless of the type of project, plan carefully. Build an architecture system of directories, especially markdown files, in a professional, scientific, and consistent manner. By doing that, Claude Code, Codex, or Gemini, and even yourself, will never get lost or encounter massive barriers. The process of achieving goals will also happen faster. When you know what you need to achieve, and you make it clear to the AI, it will help you, truly help you, rather than stealing your job. But to say that you only need to enjoy and entrust everything to Claude to do all the work of a developer while you just check your bank balance is a fatal mistake. Claude Code will not replace you. It only helps you have more time to build strategies, plan, and monitor progress to ensure quality. The one who decides the success of the project is you. You can watch this video many times to understand the flow of thinking, as well as the core values I want to convey, along with countless GIFs I've left in the link below for you to practice if you wish. And I don't want to stop at just one video tutorial. I will release many more videos about different types of projects in the coming days. Don't forget to subscribe to continue watching cool and interesting projects in the field of vibe coding.